AJ, when a man walked to the middle of the avenue of eternal peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about predators in the garden. Now, I know you're thinking it's still winter, but a lot of you guys are thinking about how do I plan out my garden this spring? How am I going to keep it safe? And now's the time to be gathering information because when it's garden season, you're going to be like, wait, I can't be watching YouTube. I need to be out in the garden actually doing stuff. So this is your opportunity. That's the bonus there. So anyway, predators in the garden. We're going to talk about all kinds of predators that might get in your garden and the different things that you can do about it.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
Kevin,
when I looked
go
this
ahead.
up, I started doing some research, started taking some notes, and I got a page full before I realized that I was on some British web page, and
They
they were
don't
just
even
talking about their yard. Their garden is their yard. They're talking about people stealing their lawnmowers and stuff. So
predators. Wow.
apparently, yeah, it's called the vegetable patch in England.
Veggie
So
patch.
that's what we're
Sure.
talking about. If you're in England, that's what we're talking about. Your vegetable
Mhm.
patch.
That's the one that Peter Rabbit's always trying to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah. What do we do about Peter Rabbit?
Right? You got to keep that guy out of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Peter Rabbit in the garden. First thing, the obvious that always comes to mind is maybe you put up a fence.
Yes.
What do you know about a fence for your garden, Kevin? What are you thinking?
Well, I personally, yeah, I like to use the 1/4 inch welded wire fencing.
Mm-hmm.
I've got that in most places. I used chicken wire on my first garden, and that worked fine. But that welded wire seems a little bit sturdier. The thing is, you got to get that wire into the ground. You know what I
Yes.
mean? They'll tunnel right underneath that stuff. You have to
Yep.
bury it like 3 to 6 inches down.
Yeah, I think that's been like enough. It's just enough to kind of, hey, you tried. Nope. See, you got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I always was worried, rabbits, groundhogs, they can obviously dig pretty deep. But I think I would shoot for like 6 inches all around.
Yeah.
The
Now.
but I think you're right. I think realistically 3 to 6 seems to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people use chain link. That's a less expensive way to go when you're doing a
Yes.
big piece of property, but it's big enough that most of the things that you're trying to keep out can get through.
Right.
Um,
Well, so what I did about deer, and so I bought a cattle fence and I
mhm.
went all the way around, which has smaller openings on the bottom and then bigger as it goes
Right
up,
as it goes up.
but they're still not that small.
Right.
What I did then was I dug the trench and I put in, they call it rabbit fence, and I think they sell 24-inch and then 36-inch. And I went
Mhm.
with 36-inch. So it's maybe 30 inches up is the rabbit fence, all the way around with 6 inches buried. And then I had the large, the cattle fence got me some height. Then because I'm cheap and it kind of works. What I did is I bought electric fence wire and I ran it around the garden.
Right.
And with that, I didn't actually electrify it though. I just put them close enough for that top little bit.
Uh-huh.
And occasionally deer run and kind of jump through it and rip it apart and make
Yeah, I mean they can
problems
jump
for me.
pretty high when it comes down
Yeah.
to it if they really want to get somewhere, but
Well, mine
you
do
know.
go 8 feet tall. It's just a matter of they don't see it and they rip down. I've seen
Oh, okay.
people tie the little flags on it, so you don't put, just I don't know, like a little ribbon or whatever along the
Right,
way to
right. So
make it
it can be
visible,
visible.
right?
Mhm.
Right. That's definitely a way to go. But guess
Now,
what? Yeah, fences
one
don't always work.
Yeah, well, one benefit of fences is that you can let your animals out in the fences. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll put my dogs in the garden.
Right.
And that'll deter almost everything. Birds, any kind of animal. It's not going to go after the dogs don't go after bugs or insects or anything like that. But anything like a woodchuck, a rabbit, they're not interested in coming in. Now we're going to talk later on about plants to deter. And let me tell you something. I tried catnip to encourage the cat to be around the garden, but it just turns out that when you're pulling weeds, you put your hand in cat shit
Yeah,
because
you do.
they just
Yeah, you do.
cat shit right in your
Cats suck like that.
yeah, they're assholes, right? They always have been. Historical. It's just some fact of life.
Yeah.
All right.
Now
So
that
after fences, what's another option here?
all right. So another way to go is, let's say, visual things. All right. So people talk about putting like they have the fake owls or fake birds
Right.
that you
Yeah.
put up around, and it kind of gives that, you know. I've also seen where they have like some kind of like strobe lights and things like that you can drop in there. I looked up on Amazon. There were all kinds of stuff. Like Night Guard Solar was one that I looked at. And basically when the motion sensor is triggered, it ends up kind of doing a little strobe light action, which I mean, I've seen that kind of thing spook deer and stuff like that, but
Right.
I don't know. Not exactly the best solution.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of
mean,
depends on
I
the
have
predator.
some motion activated solar lights, and they're kind of like floodlights, and they're big. I don't know if they actually work or not. Be honest with you, I haven't really seen much change other than in the middle of the night. Sometimes I'll be woken up with floodlights shining through my windows, and
No,
I
that's
wish I
the
was just
cops,
sleeping.
Kevin. That's the
I live in a
cops.
bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. No,
also saw some. I also saw some. I don't know if this is effective in any way, but I also saw some solar lights that light up like red scary eyes.
oh,
Like angry
it
face.
scares you, right? So,
Right. I don't know how effective that is with I mean, the truth is most animals that are in your garden trying to eat your vegetables aren't coming in the middle of the night, though. You know what I mean? You might get some deer early in the morning or late in the evening, but other than that, it's really not, it's more of a daytime thing for the vegetables. What do you
well, hang on. So I would also say scarecrows. And
scarecrows, right?
speaking of crows,
That's one that's been hundreds of years they've been doing that.
right. But remember, speaking of crows, we talked about a while back about how they're smarter than you think. Do you
Hmm.
remember me mentioning the Dick Cheney mask or
Right.
something?
Yep.
And
Yep.
but
We had a
that's it,
whole
where they learn to recognize street lights and stuff like that. So I don't really imagine you're outsmarting the crow with a scarecrow, but I do think, hey, if the rabbit comes by and he sees somebody standing in there, maybe last season you always wore a certain sweatshirt, something
right.
like that. You
I
could do it. You could
yeah, I
work.
have had some issues with my ducks getting snatched up by hawks.
Okay.
And I put the scarecrow in the thing, and I move it around occasionally, which I don't know if that's doing it. I also my wife went and got some CDs and glued them back to back so that they were shiny on both sides and hung them up from a string, and they spin around and the sun reflects off them, and their little lights moving around out there, and supposedly that's supposed to keep them away. Put up
Right.
hawk netting. I don't know which one of those things is the most effective, but I haven't had any hawks snatching up my stuff lately.
That's one thing that I've found to be a thing is I have put the netting over like my cherry trees.
Hmm.
I don't have them now. I had them in New York. I also had blueberry bushes with the
Yeah,
netting. Do a good job with that. So that that kind of stuff can help. I know with berries, it really makes a big difference.
yeah, yeah.
Just the birds that get in and destroy it. Yeah.
I've never seen a deer in my backyard until I planted my most recent apple tree, and I
Mhm.
woke up early in the morning and I saw his ass out there just fucking it up.
Dump it away.
And
It's funny.
I netted it up, and he didn't come back, but I don't know if he was just It was
Right.
a one-time thing or
It
what?
was funny one of the first times. I was like, "Oh, the deer keep getting all my apples, whatever." And then I come driving home from work and I'm like, "What the hell is that in my apple tree?" And it was the damn squirrels getting them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they're like, when they're like maybe half dollar size,
Right before
something
they're
like
even
that,
ripe. Yeah.
they're in there snatching them up. And I'm like, you little bastard.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I've done, um, made a berry patch where I just took a bunch of, instead of 2x4s, they sell like 2x2s,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just a little cheaper or whatever. I made a little frame with a screen door and covered it with chicken wire, and I just did like an 8-foot box,
Uh-huh.
and put that right over the berries and the berries. So you might want to go with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as that the fencing and the netting and all that stuff goes, that's really more for like the bigger animals, the
Mhm.
deer, the woodchucks, the rabbits, even mice and rats will get in there and eat your stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so we were talking about, motion activated lights and things like that. Um, have you tried any of that ultrasonic pest repellent stuff where it's like a high pitched noise that people can't hear and
I have
has
not personally used anything like that. I see them all over, and they talk about all the different critters, all the mice, and they have the
right.
ones you can plug into your house for the mice and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I tried that and I didn't have any success. I don't know if you know, I don't know if it works for just like, a week and then they get used to it and get tired of it or what, but it didn't work for me,
Yeah.
I tried it. It was not really effective.
Now I
Not
know
a good long-term plan.
you have not exactly in the garden, but you have experience with squirrels getting in your house.
Oh
And
yeah, I had
hang on,
squirrels
let
in my
me tell you.
roof.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So I had squirrels in my roof the other day, and we woke up to some kind of like squeaking, screeching kind of mom and
Uh
baby squirrel noises is what we attributed to in my roof, and they were going nonstop, and we were hearing it for quite a bit. And so anyway, in the morning, I'm like, I got to get something. I got to figure this out. But the problem is they're inside the wall. So I'm like, yeah, it's a pain in my ass. I don't know what.
right. They
Right.
get in there,
So
man.
what it is there was, I don't know if it was rainwater or possibly squirrels, whatever, but somehow underneath the overhang of my front porch, there was a little rotten square of like the plywood kind of rotted out. Like the
Uh
bottom of the roof is plywood. And it was
mhm.
probably maybe 1 inch by 2 inches in this little corner where water was dripping through, or I don't really know what caused it. But bottom line, I go out and I assume that's where he's getting in because I just could
Mhm.
not find anywhere else, that it could be going on. So I went to Tractor Supply, and they had some kind of little potpourri baggie
Uh-huh.
that is supposed to be kind of horrible smelling to rodents. And it
All
was
right.
kind of horrible smelling to me. So I kind of like see that, yeah, maybe they were on to something.
Yeah, but mice
So
and rats, they seem
yeah.
to go after. Don't seem to
So
mind a whole lot.
I put this thing in there, and babies and all, we never heard another noise out of there
Oh,
all
really?
day.
So it
So I'm
worked.
like, whatever, I'll take the win. Now
Yeah, because
you
you don't want to just patch the hole and
right,
then they're trapped up there and they're
right. That's what I was
going
afraid of. I
crazy
was
all the
like, yeah,
time.
I can fix this. But I'm like, then I
Mm-hmm.
got dead babies and dead mama in there, and that's not going to be good. Now
Right.
you went a different way. You went with like mouse poison to get rid of your squirrels.
Yes, and it
Okay.
worked.
And what
they
happened?
they were dead.
Do you have a
They
little more
left.
to this story, or is
Yes.
there?
So a squirrel. Well, this was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, my son calls me from my other room, from his bedroom. He says, "Dad, there's a mouse in my bed." So I go in there, and he was in there, and he said it's under my blanket. So I lifted his blanket up, and there's a baby squirrel under under his blanket. So I had to go get like a container or something, right? And I just pinned it over the top of the blanket and then slid the blanket out and slid a lid underneath it and got rid of them. But there's another scenario that
Okay.
also was terrible because that baby died. It ate the poison. It was done.
Wasn't in a good way. All right.
But I set up a trap outside where they're coming in and going out. But you have to check those traps every day.
When you get a trapping license in New York, you're required within 24 hours.
Yeah, see, but here's the thing. I didn't have a license, so it's not a big deal.
Oh,
it's all fine.
You're good. Yeah.
But if you trap like a squirrel or something, and like in those live traps.
Well, and that's it. You were using a live trap, so you were good without a license, probably.
Right. You just starved to death in there, or died from dehydration or something.
I mean, you're the victim, really.
But you can't move those things more than like 5 miles or something. You're not supposed to move those. Like if you catch a squirrel or a woodchuck, there's only a certain amount, and that's different states and counties. But you're only allowed to take them so far away. And where I'm at, the place that's far, as far as I can take it is like 500 yards. So it's just going to come right back. It's not, it's not doing me any good. All right. Now, moving on from killing squirrels and being an asshole in general.
All right.
What about, let's talk about, well, there's some other things that you can do, like barriers. We were talking about that earlier. An fence is a type of barrier.
Yeah.
But also raised garden beds will prevent things like slugs and some smaller stuff from getting in there. Obviously, there's a lot of flying insects that like to eat your vegetables, but there's a lot of crawly things too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff you can kind of do for that aside of just raised beds. Diatomaceous earth. Have you ever used that?
Diatomaceous earth. Yes, definitely. So that's supposed to be great with any kind of hard shell creatures such as ants.
Right.
A lot of your, I don't know, like cockroach type bugs, beetles, whatever, any of that kind of stuff. It seems to be pretty good. I guess the idea is it's very fine. So it kind of seals any openings and it makes it so they become dehydrated because they can't absorb moisture, is my understanding of how that works.
Right. Now I've had some pretty good experience. I mean, it's more something that I will put around like the foundation of my house to keep bugs out of the house. I don't know if it would work really well around a garden. I mean, just with the rain and stuff like that, I feel like you can lay a layer out in the lawn, 6 inches wide all the way around, and a few rains later, it's gone. I'm not really sure. I've never tried it with the garden.
Right.
But there's also other things that you can use as barriers, like mulch. You put mulch around a tree that you planted, and it keeps the moisture in, and it's good for a lot of stuff like that. But it also is a barrier. A small crawly bug isn't necessarily going to just march across the huge expanse of the 2 feet of mulch that you have between the lawn and the plants. But that's really more something I would use for like fruit trees and that sort of stuff. It's good in your garden beds, but it can be a lot of work to keep up with the mulch in your beds around every one of your plants.
Yeah, definitely. Now you mentioned fruit trees and stuff. I know in New York, one of the things people suggested, and I had moderate success with it, was hanging little bells on the branches. Because what would happen is when the deer would come over and start chewing on it, it would move the branches and the little bells would ring. And it was okay. It did deter them some.
Right.
You'd still get like the tips of it. You'd get some bites and then
stuff would nibble off. Yeah,
exactly. I followed that up. I know you guys maybe heard me mention it in the past, but planting garlic around the base of my fruit trees, I did excellent. That really helped protect the apple trees and really was productive.
Right. and anything that you can have as you had actually told me about the garlic, and I
Yeah.
am planning on planting it around my apple trees this year. We'll see how it
Always
works, but
thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
But other things that are, not necessarily normally something you would think of, but you can do stuff like stone, like setting stone around your garden beds,
Okay.
gravel, things like that, things that aren't organic around your bed. That'll just be a barrier for things that crawl. Slugs aren't really wanting to, slide across 3 feet of gravel and
Right.
sidewalk or anything like that. That sort of stuff is a little bit of a deterrent, but once they get in there, then they're trapped in there. They're going to be in there.
Yeah.
Um, what else do you want to talk about? Some plants, some
Yeah.
plants that
So
are deter animals.
another way I looked at this was you can also kind of learn to make peace with your garden, right? With nature. Um, and where you coexist, if you will. Think like the hippies, right? Where you just live and let live. One, people plant enough that it's not really going to be a problem. You're in New York. I know you're surrounded by cornfields. What they usually do is they'll put different corn on the outer edges, one to keep people from snatching corn up for free because it's
Mhm.
not the same, and then
Right.
they'll be like, oh, that's not really what I wanted, and they maybe don't come back. But two, you kind of go with that for the animals, and then inside you'll have, the stuff that really
Yeah, the better quality
the
stuff.
better
Yeah.
quality stuff. So that's one way to go. There's a lot of plants that one, if you plant native plants, you're
Hmm.
way more likely to be kind of pest free. It's going to be resilient to your local bugs and that kind of thing because these are the plants that are native and grow naturally and grow wild in your area. So those would be really cool. Another thing, both peppermint is a great one for deterring
Hmm.
a lot of different pests. It's also, you could use like peppermint oil and put that out there, to kind of, again, you run the issue of rain and all that, but it definitely can deter. I know it's good with mice. There's actually some insects that it's a good deterrent. What kind of plants were you thinking? What would really be good that would,
Well, one
keep
that I
them
use
away?
is lemon balm, and that
Oh, yep.
kind of keeps them away. It works. Other things that work are like rosemary, um, basil, thyme. You have to be careful. Oregano's also, but you have to be careful with those. Because they can take over fast. You know what I mean? I planted one in the corner of a garden bed, one year, and 3 years later, I couldn't even fit anything else in that garden bed. It had taken over the whole thing. So I had to ended up ripping all of it out by the roots and starting over again. Um, it some of that stuff is aggressive. Mint's the same way. It's really aggressive. So you have to be careful where you plant it. You don't want to think, oh, I'll just put a little
Mint,
bit in here in this
right.
corner and it'll be fine. You have to really have it sectioned off, you know what I mean? Separate from your vegetables because it will really take over your whole garden if you're not careful with it.
Yeah. But definitely, planting some to share with the animals really isn't the way that I would go, but
Hmm.
it's maybe,
Some of those those damn hippies are ruining everything about gardening. You know what I mean?
right?
Yeah.
It's
Have
funny.
you? I had this lady
Go ahead.
tell me about. She's telling me about all these organic things that she
Mhm,
makes for.
mhm.
One of them was like a bug spray that you
Yeah.
use on to keep mosquitoes away. Didn't work for shit. That organic stuff doesn't work. They still haven't figured it out. Somebody had me grinding up hot peppers with
Okay.
water and putting them in a
All right.
spray bottle and spraying it on the plants because supposedly
Or in
that's
your
supposed to.
eyes, whatever you
Yeah.
do, right?
Hey, I tried both. You know what I mean?
Didn't
But
work.
it didn't work either time. You
All
know?
right. I'm gonna drop I'm gonna drop an organic solution on you right now. I'm
All right.
gonna give you a good one.
You're gonna come at me
So
with some hippie shit. I don't want to hear
it's
about it.
hippie shit. Here it is. So they make a chicken run that people set up around their garden so the bugs kind of can't get in. So the
Oh, I
idea is
see
the
that.
chickens
Yeah.
walk around and they eat everything that kind of hits the barrier or the border of your garden, and it kind of takes it to the next level.
That seems preposterous.
So
If you're just
think
listening to
like
this,
a
you should have
little just
seen the picture that
it,
Chuck had showed.
think some folded chicken wire where you just let your chickens walk around the your garden and they
Mm,
just eat all the bad things. A lot of people have told me about ducks that'll come in and like eat the slugs off the tomato
Dogs
plant,
are real good at slugs.
the
I have
tomato
ducks
horn.
and
Yeah,
caterpillars, slugs. They don't stand a chance with these guys, man.
no,
They spot every little one of them.
I like it.
But they're not great at insects. Chickens are a lot better at the smaller insects.
I gotta
Um,
say, my yard was full of ticks and stuff when I bought the property, and now we
uh-huh.
got like 35 chickens out there, and there's no ticks to be found.
They're just feasting out there every day.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Guinea hens are really good for that too, but they're super annoying. I don't know if you've had guinea hens, but they make this ridiculous sound. And every morning I was waking up and just wanted to kill these guinea hens. And the foxes took care of them eventually, and I never replaced them. They were great at cleaning up bugs, but I hated them. I just I couldn't stand these things. They're so loud and obnoxious.
you were like, you know what? I'd rather have the bugs, right?
Yeah, I'd rather have the bugs. Now another one is marigolds. That's another plant that
Yes,
it's
I know the
just,
wife always has marigolds growing in the garden.
yeah, I've got marigolds around all my stuff. I don't know if it works or not, but I mean, between the fencing and the raised beds and the marigolds and the chives and the thyme and all that sort of stuff, I'm not sure what's actually working and
Right.
what isn't working, what's a waste of time. But I have a pretty good, I don't usually have problems with bugs or I did have some problems with woodchucks. But I got this my wife got this dog, this little mutt, and it's like half Chihuahua and half like I don't know what it is. It's all like fluffy though, and it's I don't know. I didn't like it at all. But
Rodent dog.
I tell you what, it's been fucking up some groundhogs, man. Those
Yeah.
woodchucks, they don't stand a chance. I don't know. I guess in the Northeast it's woodchucks. It's not hedgehogs or groundhogs. It's woodchucks. And she came out. She went down in one of the burrows and came up. And she was chewing up like a baby woodchuck, like just a nasty little animal when it comes to that stuff, man. She has no patience for woodchucks, man. She's been fucking them left and right. So she earned her keep. I might not like her. She's a cute little fluffy dog, but
Right.
she's been taking care of business, so I can't complain.
Now, I would also point out, some of your furry predators out there, like you said, the Chihuahua was a great additive. I guess they're kind of bred for that kind of thing. Um, that or Taco Bell commercials. I'm not really sure what,
Hmm.
but another solution that you could use is Stag Arms makes an excellent rifle
Hmm.
off the AR-15 platform called the Stag Varminter, and I gotta say, it's pretty effective. I know many a groundhog that met his end in New York. That
Hmm.
hey,
Yeah, it
sometimes
doesn't take much. A good pellet gun will take care of a groundhog or woodchuck. Well, maybe not a wood. I've taken
not a
out
groundhog, a
rabbits and
rabbit,
squirrels. I
rabbits
don't
and
know about.
squirrels.
I haven't shot a
Yeah,
woodchuck.
no, 22 and the
22 is what you want to go
groundhog.
with.
It took either really good shots or several shots in order to put down a groundhog.
Oh
But
yeah.
again, you go to the AR varminter, then hopefully one shot. But I was at the end. I was able to be pretty consistent with the 22 and not have a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, but you would spot them out of your house, right?
Yeah.
And your house and your garden weren't that close together.
No.
You'd
No,
have
but
to really take time
they were watching though. They'd know, like, if I came out the same door twice, they'd
Mhm,
be like, "Yep, I knew where you were coming from," and they'd be watching. You
mhm.
got to sneak around the back of the house, and then
All right.
oh, didn't see you there. Or maybe I'm on the first floor. Maybe I'm laying on the second floor kitchen table.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like I remember a story about that, and your wife not being so happy that you're shooting it
You
out
do what
out
you
of the
gotta
kitchen
do.
window or something.
That's what I say. Do you want groundhogs in the garden, or do you
You know.
not want groundhogs in the garden?
Now, what do you think? Have you ever eaten a groundhog?
Have I ever eaten a groundhog? That
Yeah.
sounds horrible. I've heard of other people doing it.
Yeah, they say it's really good because it's a vegetarian, but I don't know, dude. I don't know if I'd even want to try that out.
So what I'm told is that a lot of the leaner meats, you end up wanting to take like a possum or something like that and mix it in, and it gives you that the oily end and then the leaner stuff together, with the fat. You
Hmm.
end up getting the happy mix, but I'm not really sure that's the life I want to choose for me and my family. I will say some of the bunnies made it to freezer camp this week.
Oh, nice,
That's
nice.
exciting news. They're
Yeah,
there. They haven't
yeah,
made it to the fridge. I'm kind of working all the time, and I haven't been able to be home for dinner or
right.
something. But
So they haven't made it to the kitchen table yet, but
not
they're
to the table, but in the freezer.
all right. Well, that's something, man. That's
And I
something.
weighed it after I cleaned it, and I think we were sitting around 5 pounds for the first one. So
Mhm. All right, that's not bad.
that's something. Yeah, that's 5 pounds. Is a fair amount of meat.
Hmm. That's at least 2 dinners. You only got, what do you have? 4 people at the house now?
4 people.
I mean, a quarter pounder should be sufficient. Breaking it up, you got a good couple of days of food there, man.
Yeah.
Now before we wrap things up, I wanted to talk about pesticides.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people don't like it.
They
In
are
my opinion
horrified.
about the organic pesticides, as I've expressed that already,
It's the organic don't
not a
work.
fan. Yeah. Um, One that I used a lot directly on plants. I have a grapevine that is just bombarded with Japanese beetles every year,
Yes.
and that 7, I just would go through and spot them and spray them where I saw them, and lasted a few days, and it took them right out. Like they just drop off the plant, and that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
They were
Well, that's
done.
it. So Japanese beetles are the grubs that you see in the ground.
Hmm.
Also, if you notice, you have moles or voles, the little,
Hmm.
long, creepy, blind mouse-looking things you got going in the yard. The only reason you have those is because you have grubs, and the grubs are the Japanese beetles, and that's what you need to get rid of. So one of the big things people use for that is that milky spore,
Uh-huh.
and I believe that does work. We were reluctant to try it. We had a lot of Japanese beetles in New York, and honestly, I have a fair amount of grubs and moles, and things out in the yard here. But we were reluctant to do it. Is it's supposed to be bad with garlic? Like if you're growing garlic, it's actually bad for it to use that milky spore stuff.
Oh yeah.
So something you might want to look into
It's not
if
a good
that's
match,
an
huh?
option you were going to look for. Yeah. Um, but who knows?
All right. So another one that I use is Spectracide Trazicide.
Oh,
Now, that's one of those ones that
that Roundup. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know what this stuff is.
yeah, it basically is. Basically, you hook it up to your hose and you would spray down like your lawn and stuff like that. Um, I used it a few times and it really did work. Like I used it a few times when I was having people over to the house and there are no mosquitoes around for like weeks afterwards. And it's supposed to like break down within like 4 hours of spraying it. So it kills everything, and then, you know, and then then it goes away. But with the chickens and the ducks and the dogs and the everything, I stopped using that. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just I'm not sure how much I trust their, that it's safe after 4 hours or not. I'm not sure I'm really buying into that stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, but I've stopped using it now. Also, another thing is that with the pesticides, you want to be conscientious because there are like positive um,
Yes.
microbes and
And
bugs you
that
want to
can
have
kill.
in your garden. So you don't want to just, massacre everything. And that's kind of what those things do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. We watched, we used to, when we first got into the whole farming, gardening thing, we watched a lot of those hippie documentaries about, the soil and the earth and, all these things about, what you can do for your farm.
Right.
And one of the things they said was that, guys like, look, I tried, they've done all these studies about comparing, your Monsanto kind of Roundup growing versus your organic. And the deal was for like the first 5 years of growing, the Roundup wins like every time.
Right.
They get way better yields and everything works out. But then the guys who were consistently organic, once you get past about the 8th year, they're really destroying the ground with the Roundup, by killing,
Right.
like you said, the microbes and the small little things, that the organic farm was a more consistent and better producer. And you
Right.
actually end up winning out if you make it through like 8 years by doing
Mhm.
it organically.
Yeah, long term, if
Yeah,
you're in one spot, long term, organic is definitely a better way to go.
hey,
And
if
you
you
can do a
wanted to
lot
make a
more.
change, I
Yeah,
mean,
you can do a lot more with that. Like rotating your crops, not growing
yeah,
the same thing in the same place every
yeah,
year. Another thing that I did was I have a big patch of asparagus,
mhm,
and year after year, certain asparagus beetles would show up. You know what I mean? And they'd plant eggs, and then they'd hatch the next year, and I'd have asparagus beetles, and but what I would start, and you can't really move asparagus. It's not, it's a plant that grows in the same spot every year. It
right,
takes a few years for it to actually get big enough that you can trim it. And so what I started doing was just chopping everything down in the bed and burning it at the end of the year. And that seems like it works pretty good. Just burning up the top half. Yeah, I mean, obviously, starting a big fire in a garden bed, you want to be careful. You want to have the hose ready in case it starts jumping. Um, but that worked pretty well. But it's the best if you can with whatever plants you're planting. The best thing to do is just kind of keep a rotation going so that the same insects that are feeding off of that particular plant aren't, showing up year after year, laying the same eggs in the same place.
right. No, that's it. And it's just good habit, good practice to rotate things and kind of work them through. But, hey, I mean, we do the big thing. I have like a lot of oak trees in my yard, and we rake up all the leaves and scoop it up and throw it in the big garden. And every year you're throwing all kinds of new bugs and new life in there, and mixing things up. So it works out pretty good. Um, but that's the thing. There's always something. And as far as when the shit hits the fan and you need to keep the people out of your garden, you're
Hmm.
gonna have to put an all-night watch. Maybe some tripwires. I'm just saying.
What about the scary eyes? What about the solar powered
Scary eyes.
scary eyes I was
Scary
talking
eyes
about?
could be the one for you. So you got to keep your options open. But I would say definitely time to start thinking about the big garden. Now is the time to get in on ordering your seeds and that kind of stuff if you haven't already,
Right?
because this is the time when they're all available. When you wait, they might not even be available now. I don't really know. I have any idea. The wife handles
Yeah.
all that. I just say, take care
Yeah,
of
I
it.
was planning on planting garlic 2 years ago, and when it came time, I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have since located it, obviously, but you know, no good. No good when it when you go out there and it's springtime and you run out to Home Depot or wherever you go for your seeds, they might not have what you're specifically looking for. It can be
Right.
hard to find it, especially if you get there a little bit later than everybody else, you know.
That's it. So we just wanted to be a little preemptive, get you guys, on the upside, prepping the whole thing. You're supposed to be the guy ahead of the curve.
Mhm.
And we thought we'd get in there, get you out early, get the stuff going. Because once you start formulating in your mind a plan and get things ready, it's a whole lot easier to just jump in and
Yeah, and
get into.
obviously it's a little bit late for this comment, but I try and get, in the middle to end of fall, I try and get my new garden beds, any new ones I'm setting up, anything like that, get it get it ready, because
Yeah,
when spring comes, you're not going to have enough time to go out and build a bed and get the dirt, the compost, and all the stuff you need to do. You kind of want to do that in fall and get everything set up for the next spring.
well,
You
the
know,
upside
a
is
little bit of
people
planning
search
ahead.
these out all year long and pick out the episode that's appropriate to them, and you're going to hit the right guy at the right time.
Hmm.
So I say good things. That's what I'd say. So anyway, we appreciate if you guys like and subscribe, to the podcast, the YouTube channel, all that. Really helps us out. Helps us out if you share it. You have an episode that you really love, maybe send it over to a friend, have them check it out. You enjoy it, maybe leave a comment and leave a review wherever you download the podcast.
Yeah, so I was actually
Yeah.
looking through the reviews while we're
Uh-oh.
talking about that real quick.
Should I be upset?
There's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot, and it's actually hard to find reviews on all the different platforms.
It is
But
anymore.
I do find, like, if I'm ever feeling like full of myself or
They
like
know how to put you
cocky or
back in your
something like
place.
that, I'll go through I just skip through. There's a bunch of like 5-star reviews. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. But I skip right past those. I always go to the 1 and 2-star reviews and read up on it, and I'm like, hey, yeah, the audio is kind of shitty. You say a lot. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, but here's the
You
thing.
look like a fucking
Now,
retard. Yep.
Everybody
All right.
watching this is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to leave a 2-star review because then
Kevin will actually read it.
Right.
Yeah.
What you need to do is leave a 5-star and then still say that Kevin looks like shit.
Yeah, that's fun.
And
That's
that he
that's
stutters
great.
and has
Yeah.
whatever
Now,
bad audio.
we
or
do have like
feels bad when you watch the video. Whatever.
yeah, it's like 4.5 is our average.
All right.
But I've noticed that, like, if I ever see a 5-star rating for a podcast, it's all bullshit. It's terrible. It's a terrible
paid
show.
$20 on Fiverr to get those reviews.
If it's a 3-star review standard, it's trash, and if it's a 5-star standard, it's trash. That somebody had somebody create a bunch of different different names and leave a whole bunch of 5-star reviews and get that bullshit rating. But whatever. I try not to pay attention to that too much.
Yep. So anyway, I would say I appreciate it. And like I said, hit that like button. It helps out. Anyway, with that, stay safe and we will talk to you guys next week.